Welcome back to the CSP Elite Baseball Development Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Cressey, and this is our 47th installment of Pinch Hit Friday. This is a timely episode. I'm going to be talking about medicine ball training, and this is actually the week when we have put my medicine ball masterclass on sale. It's one of my really popular products, several hours long. It's a virtual session, so you can watch it all online. We'll basically go into a deep dive on how we set up our medicine ball training system for our rotational athletes, and even to some degree what we'll do with general population clients who want to use it for conditioning and just develop overall better movement capacity. We look at how we develop rotational power, how we use medicine balls in certain places in our program, what types of exercise we use, both overhead and rotational, progressions, regressions, kind of everything you need to know about using medicine balls so you can get the best out of your athletes. Again, it's on sale through this Sunday at midnight. If you visit CresseyMedball.com, it'll get you that 25% off automatically applied at checkout. That's CresseyMedball.com. And the discount is automatically applied. Really popular program that I think you'll enjoy checking out if you're anywhere in the world of rotational sport athletes. With that said, let's get to the episode. Today, I want to talk about the 5 most common medicine ball technique mistakes that we see with our medicine ball drills, right? So we often, pick the right exercise. We get excited about where we put it, in our program and all that stuff. And for some reason, it just doesn't deliver the benefits that we want. So the first thing I would say is doing them with fatigue is a big, big mistake. We'll see people who just tack medicine ball drills on the end of a training session, or they'll mix them in between sets of, heavy deadlifts or something to that effect. And what you get is you get a lot of half reps. You get people who aren't chasing larger amplitudes of movement, some of the positions that we want to create for developing, big hip shoulder separation or momentum down the mound for our pitchers, whatever it may be. So for me, medicine ball drills should be treated very similarly to what we get with hitting and pitching, right? So you do your warm up, and then you would actually get to your skill specific activity, your sports stuff. So go through your full warm up, do some plyos, some light sprint work, things like that. Get your body temperature up. You might go and throw a baseball, swing the baseball bat. To me, medicine ball stuff takes place right after that. It takes place before your strength training work. It's done in a position of very limited fatigue, because we both know fatigue is the enemy of motor learning. And one of the big benefits of medicine balls is that we can train a lot of those positions that you get with hitting and pitching, but we can do it without the same kind of high speeds and potentially dangerous positions, particularly with respect to throwing, that you would encounter with baseball skills work. So most important thing, do them early in your training session before you get to your lifts. I know a lot of athletes that will actually incorporate them on the tail end of a warm-up. So they go through a full warm-up, and then maybe it's 1 to 2 sets of, one rotational and 1 overhead medicine ball drill. Those are great options for making sure that you're not just slipping into really bad technique because you're tired and not using the ground correctly and not allowing your hips to deliver your hands. Some of those common mistakes that we see from a technique standpoint. My second big mistake is using medicine balls that are too heavy. So one of the things I'll tell you is if you walk into Cressey Sports Performance in the middle of December when things are bumping with pro athletes, college athletes, high school athletes, adult clients, all that, you will see super athletic 240-pound big leaguers throwing 4-pound medicine balls. It might be a high amplitude, athletic overhead variation where you want to get them more up tempo, almost like a crow hop from the outfield. But the point is just that when I see a 14-year-old kid trying to do a rotational med ball throw with a 14-pound med ball, it just doesn't work, right? So stay away from medicine balls that are too heavy. The overwhelming majority of our medicine ball work is done between 4 and 8 pounds. You will see some stuff like overhead stomps that are taking place with 10 or even 12. Maybe we take a heavier med ball outside and we do some clean tosses or something to that effect. But for rotational work, almost all of it takes place at 4, 6, and 8. You might even find that we use the 8 as a heavy variation, then go right to the 6 or the 4 so that it feels like it's really flying in kind of a post-activation potentiation kind of way. But see a lot of athletes that get into some really bad habits with medicine balls. And it actually kind of leads me to my third mistake is that a lot of times we see athletes that just don't understand how to use the ground. So if you use the example of like a rotational med ball scoop toss, if I coach it from the side, one of the cues that I'm often giving to folks is think about keeping your head behind your belly button as long as possible. And if you watch people who aren't efficient rotators, what they'll often do is that head will just creep forward. So they'll kind of lean away from their back hip. And so the arms lag, and what you basically get is you get someone who doesn't stay stacked to create rotation. We want the rib cage to be directly over the pelvis so that we can really optimize that hip shoulder separation, where we have in the example of a right-handed individual, if we look directly from above down on them, the pelvis is rotating counterclockwise while the torso is still rotating clockwise. And if we just kind of side bend and lean away from the back hip, we're not working really well. So you can give the cue of, hey, keep your head behind your hips as long as you possibly can. And what that does, as you head behind the belly button as long as you can, what that does is it actually keeps you in that back hip and allows you to work into the ground more. So we want to teach a good hip load with folks. And this is one way to do it, is you're just finding ways to stack the rib cage on the torso, for a little bit longer if possible. It allows them to work into a really good lead leg block. So number 3 is not using the ground, not staying in that back hip, kind of just letting the torso dump early, particularly in kind of like side bending in that frontal plane. For our next one, it's not recognizing that medicine ball drills are a perfect way to pattern optimal rotational sequencing, right? You'll hear me say a lot like less hands, right? Don't muscle up. You see a lot of people that don't understand that really the hips deliver the hand. And in a lot of ways, this kind of builds on top of our previous mistake and of not using the ground. But if your hips are sequencing correctly, the arms kind of just lag and then whip through. If you talk to some of the really hard throwers on this planet, they'll tell you the days when they throw the hardest are the days when they just seem to relax and let their arms whip through. So, what we want to do is we want to allow optimal rotational sequencing to take place. And if there's a lot of rigidity, you're squeezing the ball like crazy, your elbows are flexed like you're trying to do a biceps curl with it or something like that, those usually don't work real well. We want the arms to almost be just connectors between the torso and the ball. So understand, if you do what you're supposed to with the hips and you're just relaxed to some degree and allow the body to work sequentially the way that it should, you should feel like once that front foot gets down and stiffens up, that there's just a chain reaction up through the entire body that allows you to have some elasticity that almost feels somewhat effortlessly when you deliver the ball really, really hard. You don't want to muscle up and do this. You want to be a really fascially driven athlete. And then my last point is actually one of my biggest medicine ball pet peeves. One of the things that we'll see a lot with athletes is they just won't catch their own med ball when it rebounds off the wall. So maybe they do like a step behind rotational shot put, with a 4 or 6 pound med ball. They let it eat, and then the med ball rolls halfway across the gym, where there are, innocent training partners that are doing, reverse lunges, or they're in one of the racks squatting or something to that effect. So it's really dangerous for med balls just to be rolling all over the gym, particularly if you have athletes whose back may be to that taking place. So I'm always a huge believer you catch your own med ball when it comes off the wall. If there's not room for you to catch it, you're throwing it hard. The problem is that you're too close to the wall when you release it. So simply start the exercise a little bit further back so that it gives you time for that ball to rebound right back to you and you can pick it up. Just don't be dangerous to everyone around you. Okay, so those are our 5 things. We don't want to do med balls with fatigue. We don't want to pick med balls that are too heavy for the job. We want to make sure that we use the ground. We want to be nice and relaxed to some degree. We want to not muscle up. Instead, we're trying to really create a scenario we can simulate that optimal rotational sequencing we see with hitting, pitching, or whatever rotational initiative you're tackling. And then last but not least, we're not going to be a danger to everyone around us by not catching our own med ball when it rebounds off the wall. We're just going to move a little bit further back and it's going to roll right back to us. So that's my 5. Again, quick reminder, www.CresseyMedball.com. If you want to check out that 25% off sale that we have going through the end of the weekend. It's an awesome product that I think you'll really like. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Today's episode is brought to you by Anchor Training. If you haven't heard of Anchor, you need to, because this is an equipment innovation that's disrupting the fitness, strength and conditioning, and rehabilitation industries in the best possible way. Anchor is an attachment that rigs up easily to power racks or support beams, and it can be also wall mounted. Once it's set up, you can do chops, lifts, rotational patterns, presses, rows, and a variety of arm care exercises. Basically, if you can do it on a functional trainer or conventional cable setup, you can do it on Anchor, but at a dramatically lower price and with much less space taken up. For For these reasons, it's a perfect addition to baseball facilities and home gyms that may have limited space and budget. We have multiple units at both Cressey Sports Performance facilities and use them regularly with our athletes. Additionally, over the lifespan of the product, the maintenance costs are very low. We pay over $300 each year for parts and labors to replace cables on each of the functional trainers at our facility. Swapping it out for an anchor cable costs about 1/6 that amount and is simple as shipping it back to the company who sends out a replacement. Perhaps most importantly, Anchor travels extremely light. You can throw it in a backpack or a suitcase and not even realize it's there. I know of coaches and players that are taking these units on the road to overcome under-equipped minor league weight rooms and hotel gyms. So when all is said and done, it saves space, money, and headaches while also offering the benefits of portability. To learn more, head to www.anchortraining and enter the coupon code Cressey at checkout to save 10% on your order. That's Anchor Training, ANCORE training.com, and the coupon code is Cressey, CRESSEY, to save 10% on your order. This has been a great addition to our training facilities, and I'm confident you'll find it equally beneficial.